Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the SoFLo Sports Show. It's your host, 305 Sports Babe, co-host Lou from Dade, and boy oh boy, today has been a whirlwind for us Dolphin fans. Tonight we're really excited to be joined by two incredible guys who cover the Dolphins, so stay tuned for that. And if you haven't heard by now, the Dolphins made some big news today by releasing some Pro Bowlers, and then they also released some guys who they weren't cutting it. So we're definitely going to be covering that a little later with Alain Poupart and Chris Perkins.
Yep. And you mentioned a couple guys not cutting it, a couple guys that just couldn't stay healthy, couldn't get on the field, and one that in NWI had no production whatsoever. But yeah, we are very fortunate to be joined by our two guests tonight. We're lucky we reached out to them last week, because had we called them today, they probably would not have any time for us, as it's been a very busy and eventful day in Dolphins Nation with all these monster moves that came out today.
It has. So let's see what's going on in the chat room. We have Mike from the West Coast. Hey guys. We have Desi. Hey. Brent. Good evening, guys. Good evening to you. And Miami Sports 72. What's up, guys? Excited that you all are joining us on this lovely Monday evening. Most of us were off today of work, but even though if we were off, we were still busy on X, just scrolling and seeing who else is going to be next. So before we get into Dolphin news, even though it's a weird season with sports because we just finished the NBA All-Star weekend, which I'm sure nobody watched because it's so not what it used to be, but I bet you guys have watched the Olympics. So let's get into it.
We'll be joined by our guest coming up very shortly, but before we do that, let's get into the Olympics. And so the Olympics, obviously a monster story going on. There you see the medal count. You want to give us the update? Yeah,
so the Olympics, the Winter Olympics this year is being held in Italy. So far, Norway is leading with 12 gold medals, total 28 medals in total. Italy, which is the home country of the Olympics this year, has 8 gold medals with 23 altogether. And USA is right behind them with 6 gold medals with 19 together.
Yep, they're tied in the gold medal department for third with the Netherlands. So go USA, right? It's President's Day. As you mentioned, most people had a day off, so we've been watching the Olympics. It's really a tremendous story. You see all these athletes that have trained their whole lives for this moment. Some of them who were there previously 4 years ago and back at it again. And in some events, they last a matter of seconds, and it's over in the blink of an eye. So it's really a tremendous story. And obviously, we are rooting for the home country to go out there and bring back more medals.
Noel, hi, y'all. Hello. Adrian in the house. What's up, beautiful people? I watched USA versus Sweden game today. Hockey, yes.
The girls, yes. The women's team
destroyed
Sweden out there, so that's good to see. And I think the men's team plays Sweden up in the playoffs now, in the knockout round, if you will. So we'll see that.
Speaking of hockey, big sis Lisa. Hi there, Ashley. Go USA in the wild world of hockey. We also have Josephine Ebby tunes in. Hi, everyone. Hello, Non. Excited to have you. We also have Sony Michaels. Who thought curling could bring so much drama? Curling?
I feel like I could be a curler. I mean, it looks like a household cleaning activity, and I'm pretty sure I could do it.
You don't clean the house, though, so why would you be able to do that if you don't clean the house?
Touche.
Fun fact, the town where I'm from in New Jersey, Central Jersey, there was actually a curling headquarters, right? It was right off the highway. And no one really knew, everyone knew it was like South Plainfield Curling Club, but no one ever went there. But I know that there's some curlers that came from my town or trained there. Fun fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, if you are watching this over on Twitter or X, come on over to YouTube. Make sure you like tonight's episode and subscribe to the channel. If you have not done so already, we are awaiting our guests that'll be joining us to talk about the major moves happening in the Miami Dolphins land today. But look, the second story that happened.
Sammy's in the house as well. Good
Sammy, how you doing, Sammy? Sammy reposted the stream earlier, so we appreciate that. We had a tremendous time on the Fins TV Awards last.
We got to dress up and everything.
Last Tuesday, we were wearing our best for the show, and we loved hanging out with the Fins TV crew and Sammy. So thank you for having us. Definitely check out Fins TV as well. Make sure you subscribe to their channel as well. Tremendous things that they do every season.
Before we switch gears, we have an update from Miami Sports 72. Now the girls USA hockey team versus Canada for the gold medal on February 19th.
Love it.
Joey loves Frozen. Elsa's a big fan of hockey. She's truly an ice queen.
There you go.
We do.
Yeah.
All right, so the other story going on is the Daytona 500 that was held yesterday in Daytona Beach, Florida. And, of course, you have your typical people who you think's going to win, right? I mean, you go back There's all the names. And then you asked me, you said, who do you think I should bet on? And I said, Lou, NASCAR is one of those sports where you don't know.
Anything can happen.
Literally, crash can set back anybody. So
and that's what happened.
I have my favorite, like Daniel Suarez is one of my favorites. Eric, he's always been one of my favorites as well. Joey Logano. And so the unexpected winner was the Michael Jordan.
Yeah, Michael Jordan Team Jordan, Michael Jordan car. It was Tyler Reddick who ended up winning the Daytona 500. He did not lead the whole race except for the last lap. As you mentioned, there was a crash, and so they ended up pulling it out. But you see this iconic photo right here. Michael Jordan winning his first NBA trophy in 1991. And just yesterday in 2026, he wins yet another title. This is, in my opinion, the best athlete who ever lived, at least in this generation. A lot of people will point at Bill Russell and other guys that, played in a different time. But Michael Jordan winning 6 NBA titles, winning a championship in North Carolina, and now being the owner of a winning car at the Daytona 500, the Super Bowl of NASCAR. And look at this photo. I mean, it is an iconic picture, almost a similar pose, 1991 to 2026, Michael Jordan, the greatest, again, for my money, the greatest athlete of all time, with both these revered trophies. Big deal.
Yeah, no, it was huge. Brent says a 500 is one race that you can always bet on anyone. And it's truly and sincerely, you can really, really bet on it because it just takes one crash for that person who started in the 20 spot to just come and creep in. And by the time they refuel and if there's any, things with the car. So NASCAR, I've been to many Daytona 500s. I've been to probably 6 Daytona 500s, probably 4 Coke Zeros, and I've been to the Homestead race. It's a little secret of mine that I do like NASCAR. I give credit to my grandmother who's in the chat where she first moved to Daytona Beach years ago. She got into NASCAR. So when then I moved to Daytona, I kind of grew on you. So when you live in Daytona, NASCAR will definitely grow on you. But I highly recommend for everyone to at least get to one Daytona 500. It is an amazing, extraordinary experience. You get to bring your own cooler inside. And I mean, tons of giveaways and just fun, great times. So.
Yeah, I've never been, but you've taken me twice to the atmosphere in the scene, and I can confirm that it is quite the party. Pretty much everything you'd expect and more. People pre-gaming, people bring their RVs out and they hang out like the whole week leading up to it. They party in the infield of the Daytona 500. Those are really expensive, setup over there. But all outside, all around the Daytona 500, over 250,000 people in that venue. Fun fact, the Jaguars were actually, the Jacksonville Jaguars were in contention of potentially playing at the Daytona International Speedway, but they ended up settling for Orlando, so they'll be playing at the Citrus Bowl or Camping World Stadium, whatever it's called these days. But so that's an iconic venue. Never been inside it, but I one day will definitely get out there for the Daytona 500.
And something very interesting about going to a Daytona 500 or really any NASCAR race, usually with sporting events, maybe minus hockey, you want to sit close, right? You go to a baseball game, you want to sit close. Same with a football game. With any NASCAR race, it's actually the opposite. The higher you sit and the further back you sit is the better seats. Because if you're close to the track, you can't see the full track. So those seats that are like row 1, 10, 12, those seats tend to be the cheaper ones, because you just don't have a great view. So that's why when you go to look up tickets for a race, it's the higher seats that are further back are the most expensive ones, because those are the best seats in the house. Fun fact.
Yeah, and you're also safer in these higher seats because if you're down low, there's a lot of crashes there. And I don't know if you feel comfortable sitting in that, first 20, 30, 40 rows when these projectiles, wheels and screws and nuts could fly into the crowd. So got to be very careful. But definitely a tremendous event. The Super Bowl of racing, as it's called.
So much fun.
And it was won by the greatest, like I said, basketball player who ever lived, in my opinion, Michael Jordan's Team Jordan. Tyler Reddick wins the Daytona 500 in 2026.
We have Brent says the airport looks small besides that track. Yeah, so Daytona International Airport, I used to travel in and out of it for work a lot. It has since expanded, but it's such a great, convenient airport. Besides that, your closest airports to Daytona or Orlando, which is about an hour away, and then Jacksonville is about an hour and a half, an hour 45 minutes away. So if you are going to Daytona, you really want to try to get that flight into Daytona, but it is a very small airport.
Yeah, there you go. Robert Tracy in the house. Robert, a good buddy. Robert says that you got a shout out on 560 QM this morning, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, this morning too?
On the question, yeah. That's, look at that.
I knew earlier in the week, but I guess
I'm gonna have to start asking for your autograph. That's a big deal.
I think it's on our marriage certificate. I think you're
there you
okay.
go. But yeah, you can definitely see everything up top, no doubt. And yeah, so that's a big deal. And then the last thing I want to talk on before we bring in
also Jeremy in the house. Let's go, Jeremy.
Jeremy, I saw your premiere episode today. Excellent job as always, my man. He's like doing a tour of all these
college
hockey venues, and it's pretty amazing.
He tapped into this area of sports that's very like hush hush in the sense that it just doesn't get enough credit. So our buddy Jeremy, he goes, "What's up, Ashley and Ashley's husband?" But he's covering college hockey. So guys, definitely give him a follow as well.
Covers a lot of things on the Rock and Roll podcast, and he was at the winter.
He's in Maine.
He was the Winter Stadium Classic version of the college hockey world that Michigan State and Penn State played at Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley. So that was a tremendous deal there.
Sonny said, I'm not sure if they still allow it, but they used to let fans walk the track after the race.
Oh, okay.
I haven't been in about 8 years, and I'm not sure if they still allow that.
Yeah.
Just kidding, though.
All right, listen. So the last story we want to talk about before we bring our guest here, expecting him at any moment here, we want to talk about the Miami Hurricanes basketball program. This is a SoFLo Sports Show, so we are heavy on the Dolphins and Hurricanes, but obviously both seasons have come to an end, even though there is no offseason covering the Miami Dolphins this year or previous years as well, but especially this one. But I want to talk about the Miami Hurricanes. They are not yet ranked, but they had a monster victory last week
at home at the Watsco Center.
At the Watsco Center against North Carolina. The Tar Heels ranked number 11 in the country. So that was a big win at home. And then they also had a tremendous win in Raleigh, North Carolina on Sunday against the Wolfpack. They were down by 9 points the last minute and 10 seconds, and they came all the way back to win that game 76-75. So UM basketball is, Jay Lucas with his first campaign. Of course, the former Duke assistant is now 20-5 on the season, 9-3 start in the ACC. And look, next week they should definitely be ranked because they've earned that right. A lot of good teams in college basketball this year, but the Hurricanes are definitely one of them.
706 FinFans 684 in the house. Excited for tonight's show. Keep up the good work, guys. Also, Miami Sports 72. How much do we have now after releasing players? I know those questions are just bottling up with everybody. So much has happened in the last 6 hours. So we have some of the best ready to answer those questions, to share their opinions. Both of these guys cover Miami sports. They're fantastic follows on Twitter, X. So you just stay tuned for another minute or so. They're coming.
Yeah.
Brent also says, "Oh man, Ash, thinking of CBB, I saw that foul in St. John's game. Wow, UFC move." I know we weren't going to talk about this, but guys, Providence, you guys are a dirty bunch. We will not see you in the Big East tournament because you're not going to be relevant, and we will definitely not see you in March. So we're going to get the last laugh, but that was atrocious what they did. I mean, we have, basketball is an aggressive sport.
It is.
But pulling his head off like it's a face mask, I mean, and then all you saw was the guy's batch of hair in the back of his head. That's not cute. So for sure that guy suspended at least 3 games. I think you suspend him for the rest of the season and strip his NIL money. I'm a very angry St. John's fan right now. We ended up winning regardless. We won 12 games straight. I mean, we're going into March sitting very pretty, but there's no place for that. It was dirty. They even caught Rick Pitino squaring up. Godfather was ready to knock him out. So we actually missed that game. It was one of the few games that I missed this season. We were celebrating Valentine's Day, but I had 10 text messages saying, "Did you just see what happened?" And then I saw it, and my Valentine's Day was like, what the heck?
No doubt. So it reminded me of
crazy.
Old school John Calipari, I know you don't like that name, and John Chaney matchup when they were squaring off at Temple and UMass. Okay. So that took me back to that when I saw Pitino going out there with his fist out. Also, if you're a Miami Heat fan, the old Jeff Van Gundy and Pat Riley, the old Knicks and Heat battle. So that's what that looked like out there.
All right. But it was very frustrating, and it got really dirty. And, we won. So
yeah. All right. Well, let's bring in our first guest. Already one has joined, and we're awaiting both. But let's bring on our first guest. You can find him. He is the columnist for the Sun Sentinel. He's also on a bunch of podcasts, including the All Dolphins podcast, which he's a frequent guest on. And so
freaking best of the best. I heard you laughing.
He is the man, the myth, the legend. Joining us again. He was with us at the beginning of the year. And so without further ado, let's bring on the one, the only Chris Perkins, affectionately known as Perk. Perk is in the house. How you doing, Perk?
Good. What's going on? I'm honored to be back. I'm glad y'all had me back. I like it.
Oh, we were
please.
counting the days. Like, we do a lot of traveling. So in between the Dolphins travel, but we kept up with your content. And we were so grateful. We said this before the show started, or when the show started. We were so grateful that we reached out to you a few days before, because I could just imagine how busy. I mean, your fingers are probably like octopuses, right? I mean, it's been crazy.
Yes. I can only imagine.
No, and you know what? And you kind of figured that Tyreek was not going to be around next season because of the $51 million salary cap charge. But, this kind of reminds you of the purge they had on Valentine's Day last year, right? When they released Raheem Mostert and Kendall Fuller and Durham Smythe. I for some reason, I just stupidly, I thought Tyreek would be a solo move, like I expect Tua to be. But to put him up with Chubb and NWI and James Daniels, that just makes it a really, really big day and a significant set of releases for John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley.
Absolutely. And so, Perk, let's bring in our second guest tonight. And so our co-guest, he's the publisher of Miami Dolphins SI. He's the host of the All Dolphins podcast, as mentioned, where Perk is a frequent, you guys tag team on that show always. So without further ado, let's bring on Alain Poupart.
Also the biggest Expos fan.
Absolutely.
Want to bring him back.
Bring those Expos back. How you doing, Alain?
It's like I don't have enough of this guy already on the All Dolphins.
I feel the same way about him. Like, I don't have enough of him. I totally get it.
Touche.
Why
Hey,
did
guys.
I get introduced first? I'm like downtrodden. Okay, I'm over it.
Well, hey, I'll make it up for you on that because, hey, look, today is President's Day. Don't worry, we're not going to get into all that. But for joining us.
Look, Lou was like doing this project. I'm like, what are you doing? He was like, I'm working on something. I kind of let him. You guys won't believe what he did.
Because you guys are the absolute best at covering the Dolphins, really. And because you guys are taking the time to join us on President's Day, we had to mark this occasion by making sure that you are recognized as two of the best to cover the Dolphins, and you are now officially on. Let's put that up. Get that up there, please. Put that up.
Dinosaur fingers.
You are on Mount Finsmore. Look at that.
Oh.
I mean, this is not easy. They carved your amazing faces on a mountain. You are on Mount Finsmore. Mount Finsmore, for your hard work and recognition, and for you guys joining us on President's Day. So there you guys. You guys are forever etched in history there on Mount Finsmore.
Beautiful.
Mortals.
So like Lou was asking me, he was like, babe, send me pictures of Mount Rushmore. And I thought like maybe he's thinking about going there this summer or whatever. I had no idea that he was doing that. I am so humiliated that you did that.
I didn't do anything. That was people carving those for months now, getting the true recognition that Chris and Alan deserve.
All right.
Look, we're better presidents than Tom Garfinkel. This is amazing.
There you go.
I detect no lies.
Not fired right off the bat.
There you go.
All right, so let's get into it because the chat room is packed. I can't keep up with all the comments coming in. Crazy day, Black Monday, as some would call it. We thought we would have had that after the season, but this was truly an extraordinary day in the sense that I did not see this. Like, I saw moves happening, but I didn't see this maybe today on our day off or just back-to-back like this. So, of course, the huge news today was the Dolphins parted ways with Bradley Chubb, Tyreek Hill, James Daniels, and Nick Westbrook. Nick, what's that next?
Nick Westbrook-Akine. NWI. Who was MIA.
I knew there was another part of his last name. Some of the moves were kind of like, we kind of knew they were going to happen. But how do you guys feel about this? And looking back, were you surprised that Chubb wasn't let go sooner? Maybe we thought maybe by the trade deadline. Alan, why don't you go first?
Yeah, if they could have gotten anything for Bradley Chubb at the trade deadline, and there were reports that they got some feelers out there, it kind of made no sense. But the Dolphins were in the same boat as they were in 2024. Really, really bad start. They have confidence that they can make a little bit of a move late in the season. And in 2024, they hung on to Calais Campbell. And in retrospect, they could have gotten a draft pick for him. Same thing with Bradley Chubb. But there was no way in any universe he was coming back at $31 million on the cap. And now, because his move was not officially announced, it's certainly looking very possibly it's going to be a post-June 1, which increases the money they're going to save this year from $7 million to $20 million. But no, there was no way he could come back. And I said this on my podcast, the All Dolphins podcast today. as respectfully as I can say this, because I like Bradley, he's a good guy and all that, good leader. But him having 8.5 sacks is the most misleading thing ever, because I did not think he was particularly impressive in 2025, and it was time to cut the cord.
Perk, any surprise today? You kind of saw these ones coming.
Yeah, you kind of saw them coming. I'll say this overall, I like that the moves were made. And, as my colleague Dave Hyde wrote, these were the easy moves. The tougher moves are going to be, do you extend Achane? Do you extend Brewer? Do you extend Brooks? However, I do like the thinking that this shows as far as, Tyreek, you knew that Tyreek was going to be gone, but Bradley Chubb and James Daniels are the two that, we're not going to deal with all of this. It was good having you around here, but this is a new era. We're shuttering that old era. They're going to do the same thing with Tua, I would imagine, as I said. But I just like the thinking, the progression, there's no reason to drag your feet on this. Let's get it done. Let's move forward. Let's get this new mindset established. I think that's what this represents as much as the financial savings.
And I will make the point about James Daniels, because according to my calculations, the Dolphins actually are going to have more of a cap hit on James Daniels with him off the roster than they would have had they kept him, which basically tells you Dolphins did not like, or they don't like where he is physically. This is a guy who missed the end of 2024 with the Achilles. He missed all but 3 snaps in 2025 because of the pec injury. And that whole situation was weird from A to Z because of the time they put him on IR. Mike McDaniel's telling us, well, it's a tough decision because the timeline kind of aligns with him maybe coming back around that time, and the dude never played another down. So there's something at play here with James Daniels that's not been brought forth. Clearly the Dolphins were like, yeah, no, we can't count on this guy. He doesn't want to play, or something along those lines.
So
it's not like the Dolphins are swimming with guards either.
That is true. Last week was a very interesting week for especially me and you as well. And I think kind of for Dolphins Nation, the Dolphins held an event for season ticket holders. They call them members. And it was at the practice facility, and it started at 6:30. And it was a chance for season ticket holders to get to know John Eric Sullivan and Coach Jeff Hafley, a little behind the scenes. You guys do a great job reporting and, everything that we hear from you. But it was an opportunity just for us to see them, face to face.
I want to add, I'm jealous of what they do. And if you guys ever have a Take a Fan to Work day, I would love to join. I'll hold your notepad, take pictures of whatever you guys are doing. We had a great time, and jealous of the work that you guys do.
We sit with them during camp. We do sweat with them.
Yeah,
so that part won't skip. Anything but camp.
Hey, look, I'll do that the next time you guys have a season ticket event holders only thing. Invite us.
Absolutely, you're a +1.
So
yeah.
we go to this event. Traffic was atrocious, right? We live in Miami Beach, 2 hours to get there. So we got there just when it started, and we left a good hour and 40. I mean, it was just crazy. So we get there. They have meatballs and snacks. So I'm sure, you guys get fed as well, but whatever. We go in, and before the event, season ticket holders had the opportunity to submit questions. So Lou submitted a question. One of his questions was, how do you guys think their players are going to adapt to playing in cold weather? And, people submitted their questions. So it wasn't the opportunity where you raise your hand and they give the mic. These questions were preset. And the commentator was Matt Moore, so it was great seeing him. I will tell you, and I mean this wholeheartedly, there was not any point throughout this whole entire presentation where they said that you could not record. So what I did, it was fine, right? And even John Eric Sullivan made a comment saying, oh, good thing there's no media. I don't consider myself media. I'm a sports low-key influencer. I love the teams. You guys are the media. Yes. So everything I did was okay. Yeah. So I'm recording a little bit, right? They asked the guys, what music pumps you up? Coach Hafley said, Bruce Springsteen, I'm all about that. I'm from Jersey, whatever. Then they asked a tough question about Tua. So then I kind of perk up and I'm like, oh, so I'm recording. And the first person I sent it to was my boss, who used to be the chaplain for the Dolphins. But then I'm like, I'm going to tweet this. You would have thought, it went crazy. And then Al, you DM'd me and asked me about it and stuff. So, of course they wanted to kill the messenger. I'm like, guys, because, they know my feelings for Tua, but they wanted to attack me. And I'm like, I'm just saying it. So with all that said, and then there was an article on it with NFL.com, and then I was on morning radio. All right. So based on that, John Eric Sullivan really didn't give us a straight answer, which you guys haven't really received from him either. It's kind of like the generic
company line,
like we'll see what happens, this and that. But I want to ask you guys, we'll start with Perk. What do you think is going to happen with Tua? Maybe given what we heard last week from my leak or what where do you, right? My leak, I feel so special. But what do you think is going to happen with Tua? I want to know what you guys think.
I think the decision has been made, and I think the decision was probably made in the GM and head coach interview process. What do you want to do with Tua? I just can't imagine that they would have hired John Eric Sullivan and that was still a question. I think he had to give an answer to that committee of Stephen Ross and Daniel Silman and Troy Aikman and Dan Marino, etc., Brandon Shore. He had to let them know we're keeping Tua, we're parting ways with Tua. I think the decision has already been made. They're parting ways with Tua. They're just finding the right time. They're seeing if they can find a trade partner. But I think Tua is going to be gone, and I think that's the right decision. I think as much as you can part ways with that old regime, you should do it, and Tua represents that old regime.
I love it. Alan, what do you think? What do you think of Tua's future with the Dolphins? Where do you kind of see that? But I'm with you, Perk, 1,000%.
To quote David Spade, bye-bye. Yeah, no, and all the tea leaves, I mean, he is gone. And you see national reports that the Dolphins would prefer to be able to trade him. And I mean, obviously they would prefer to be able to trade him. But if they are able to trade him, and I put this on Twitter not too long ago, a trade would look something along the lines of Tua plus a 3 plus paying some of his salary for like a 6 or a 7. You're not getting any value for him. I mean, none, zip. And that's just the reality of it because he's a diminished asset. There's no way any team looking in is going to look at Tua and go, that's the answer to our solution. Okay. So yeah, he's as good as gone. Yes, it's going to be painful to absorb the cap hit and now some of the national reporting is the Dolphins would like a resolution on this sooner rather than later. Again, nobody's rushing to trade for him until they exhaust other possibilities. So if the Dolphins want something to happen sooner rather than later, that's a cut. Now, the only question is, do they cut him, pardon me, Perk, do they cut him March 11th and make it a post-June 1 so the cap hit is 67 this year, 32 next year, or do they just swallow hard and make it 99 right now? That, to me, that's the only question that remains there.
Yeah, I agree, Poop. And I'll add this. I know a lot of people say you might as well bring Tua back because you owe him money anyway. There's a lot of reasons that I wouldn't do that. Among the primary reasons, he remains immobile. He remains a high injury risk, and he restricts your offense in that sense. So give Bobby Slowick, the new offensive coordinator, some freedom. Give him a quarterback who's able to use his legs. And I just think Tua would hold the offense back. As good as he did in his good days, if he was on the team in 2026, he would restrict the offense.
You know, another thing that came up, and even my grandma, who, is very active on the show, she said, put him as a backup, let him go sit on the bench. And she's not the only one saying that. Some people are also saying, put him as a third string, but why even keep him there? What's the point of seeing him there? He's going to get paid for sitting on the bench. I agree with you guys. It's time to move on. We're going to take a loss. There's no way around it.
At this point, you need to. Yeah. And so, guys, I want to follow up with that, sticking with the quarterback. Perk and Alan, you both wrote great articles regarding what to do next. Perk, you wrote an article where you kind of pushed back on the idea of, bringing in a Malik Willis down here and maybe waiting until 2027. So I'd ask you if you want to share a little bit of that. I'd encourage everybody to go out and read that article on his, you can check it on his X, but if you want to mention that. And then also, Alan, you mentioned that, with this new regime making the mention of maybe drafting a quarterback every year, you were also a little hesitant as to why maybe that's not the best answer. So you guys want to share a little bit about what you see as the next move quarterback regarding in Miami?
So it's not Tua. Where do you guys see this going?
Yeah. Alan, you want to start?
Okay. And this is like Perk and I are kind of like this on this one. My column over the weekend was like, I pushed back against this idea of like drafting a quarterback every year. First of all, Green Bay didn't draft a quarterback every year. So it sounds great in theory, and it's great. It's a great thing to say. It's not fact, and that's on record proven. To me, the Dolphins already have 2 guys who were drafted in 2025, Quinn Ewers and Cam Miller. What's the point of drafting another type of guy who's like a project you hope to nail in?
Yeah.
To me, it makes 0 sense. Now, if you're going to draft somebody who, to me, at like 2nd or 3rd round at the absolute latest, who has a clear chance, who is like definitive future starter in the NFL, okay, that's one thing. This idea of drafting somebody who potentially could become something, you have those guys on your roster, it makes 0 sense. So for me, I don't mind Malik Willis, but I'm like with Perk on this, and I don't want to steal your thunder. Actually, I don't care. No, I'm perfectly fine with Malik Willis. Don't break the bank for him. Don't make a long-term commitment where you're doing this again, because we saw how that worked out when the Dolphins did this with Tua. Don't lock yourself into a guy who's not a proven commodity. And I'm sorry, Malik Willis, as much potential as he might have, is not a proven commodity. Perk, I yield the floor.
Thank you to the gentleman from Montreal.
I retain my time.
I agree, and I'll say this, but I've said very crudely, I wish the Dolphins could date Malik Willis instead of marry him. Because look, Malik Willis is probably going to want 3 or 4 years, because the Dolphins won't be the only team bidding for his services, and he's going to want maybe $20 million, probably north of that per year. My problem is, if he's not your starter, that's the same as dead cap money, right? Because it's not like he's a defensive end where you can rotate him in and get something for that money. He's sitting on the bench as a backup. So I just haven't seen enough from Malik Willis. Now, obviously, we will all yield to John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley because they've been with Malik Willis for years. But from what I've seen, I'm not making a long-term commitment to Malik Willis. Ideally, I would go into camp with Quinn Ewers, Cam Miller, a middle-aged guy or an older guy with starting experience. I guess I'll just throw Kirk Cousins' name out there. And then hopefully a draftee, as Poop said, and as I've said, by the 3rd round. I think when you draft a quarterback in the 4th through 7th rounds, you're pretty much just hoping that he turns into a starter. And I know there's Tom Brady and Brock Purdy, right, and Gardner Minshew and Dak Prescott. I know, but they're the exceptions. I know. They're the exceptions. If you want a starter, pretty much first 3 rounds, 4th to 7th, you're just kind of hoping that the guy develops. So that would be my plan for going into training camp, and I defer the quarterback decision until 2027 if I'm the Dolphins.
And what you got?
If I may just throw in the stat, 14 teams in the playoffs in 2025, 12 of them were quarterbacked by first-round picks. The 2 exceptions were Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick, and Brock Purdy, who was one of those outliers, as a 7th-round pick.
Our buddy Cap for Life, awesome guy. He wanted to throw a question out there. What if? Okay, this one's gonna go to Perk. What if we got Malik on a 1-year contract guaranteed deal? How would you feel about that?
Oh, I would do that, definitely. Malik wouldn't do that, and his agent would be fired if he did that. But I would 100% do that, yes. Bingo. I just don't think it's realistic because there will be other teams bidding for Malik Willis. There's going to be a market for him.
No doubt. And so, guys, if you're watching this on Extra Twitter, definitely come on over to YouTube. Show our great guests, Chris and Alan, some love. Drop a comment and like tonight's episode and subscribe if you haven't already. I want to stick with the offense, guys. And so I know, Perk, we talked about this early on in our show. In terms of the Dolphins bringing, pretty much cleaning house with this new regime, getting everybody gone. However, promoting, Bobby Slowick from his role to now the offensive coordinator, and then bringing in the much maligned Kevin Patullo from the Philadelphia Eagles, where they were running at it. Our good friend Russ is in the room, a big Eagles fan. They ran him out of town, and he didn't have much success. Big regression in Jalen Hurts this season and that entire offense. So, what were your thoughts on again, one, promoting Bobby Slowick, and then bringing in a guy who didn't really have the best year this past season in Patullo?
I was surprised that Slowick got promoted. that shocks me. To me, it's kind of a prove it type of a deal with Slowick. He didn't leave Houston on good terms, which that's fine. That happens. Butch Berry didn't leave Denver on good terms. He turned out to be a good offensive line coach for the Dolphins. I just didn't see enough from the Dolphins passing game last season to think that any of those guys should have returned. Now, I don't know how the assignments were carved up, who is in charge of what, but I was surprised by the Slowick thing. I'll have to be convinced by that. Patullo, I don't know what's going on in Philly with those offensive coordinators. Jalen Hurts has had, 238 offensive coordinators? I mean, it's incredible. I don't know what to make of Patullo. So I will wait and see on that one. But the Slowick one, he's got to prove it to me.
What do you think, Alan?
Benefit of the doubt is what I'm going to give John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley, that they know what they're doing. However, if I'm a fan, I'm not exactly inspired because Kevin Patullo, we know what went on with the Eagles. And by the way, Perk, you mentioned them shuffling through offensive coordinators. Well, it's because a couple of them got head coaching positions. So that's not so bad.
Yes, Kellen Moore, yeah.
Kellen Moore and then Steichen before that. Is that who it was?
Yeah.
Patullo, obviously, we know what happened. And Bobby Slowick last year, he was a senior pass game coordinator. Well, Dolphin passing game wasn't very good. Year before that, he was the OC with the Houston Texans, and their offense wasn't very good, even though part of that was a really bad offensive line. So, like I said, I'm going to give those guys the benefit of the doubt. But if I'm a Dolphin fan, I'm like, what? So let's hope.
Yeah, checking into the chat, our buddy Russ from Philadelphia Eagles fan said they ran him out. They even egged his house.
Oof.
Oh, my goodness.
That's not good.
My grandma says that Tua's not playing like he used to play. He has to shape up or ship out. You heard it first from Nana.
By the way, Ashley, I saw the Noel comment where it says Dolphins need a reclamation project by like Sam Darnold. Absolutely. The thing is, okay, identifying that guy, and that's why I think Perk and I are on the same page here. I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on a guy like Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, Joe Milton 3.
Yeah.
One of those guys who's got like a really sick physical set of traits, who hasn't panned out for his first team. Maybe a change of scenery unlocks it. But you don't pay a whole lot for it. It's just, to me, it's a worthwhile gamble.
Yeah, and can I just jump in? I know you're going to ask a question, but I want to jump in because that's you mentioned it, Alan. So I want to point out the fact that, is this a rebuild, or is it a reclamation rebuild, or can they do what we just saw the two teams get in the Super Bowl? The issue here is that Sam Darnold had a tremendous year at Minnesota, and the Patriots believed in Drake May. So while those two teams came out of nowhere, they had their quarterback in place. The Dolphins do not. But so is this, you guys think, a total 2019 rebuild? Are we, tearing this down, starting back up? Really quick on this, Alan, go ahead. You're shaking your head. Yes.
I'm shaking my head. Yes, it's maybe not quite 2019 level, but it's going to look a whole lot more like that than possibly any other offseason.
Chris?
Yeah, it's a rebuild because of what you've lost, starting with the quarterback and going to Tyreek and going to Chubb. Jalen Phillips, you remember, was traded. So there are some major talent losses from the successful teams of 2022 and 2023. I will point this out to you, however, when you talk about those quick turnarounds with Drake May and Sam Darnold, more and more defense is becoming part of the NFL. The last 3 Super Bowls, both teams have been ranked in the top 10 in total defense, and both teams have been ranked in the top 4 in scoring defense. So if the Dolphins want to build that defense up this year, build the trenches, and then get to the quarterback in 2027, that's a formula that could work for them very well.
And
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that let's not pretend that like the Patriots didn't get to the playoffs in part, if not in large part, because Drake May had a really, really good season. And Drake May was, like you mentioned, Drake May was a stud. Even as a rookie, you could tell that guy's a dude, except the talent around him was so horrible and the coaching was bad that couldn't get anywhere, but the skills and the talent was always there. Yes, I said Anthony Richardson. I did not stutter. I said what I said.
He said he's starting off.
Did you say Anthony Richardson? I'd rather get Malik.
He said it. All right, go ahead.
Don't cost you as much to get Anthony Richardson.
That's it.
And then Jay Boy just came in and said, all these quarterbacks aren't an improvement over Tua. Sorry, not sorry. I mean, there's very few. The majority, are against Tua, but there are a few that still believe. So let's talk a little bit about the draft. The draft is coming up in April. The draft will be held in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania this year. When we were in Pittsburgh in December for the Dolphins game, they started getting ready for it. So it was really cool to see a city transform and get ready for the draft. And again, it'll be held in Pittsburgh this year. The Dolphins do have the 11th pick in the 2026 NFL draft. So I wanted to ask you guys, do you see the Dolphins actually selecting at that 11th spot? Or do you see them maybe trading out for draft capital? And another scenario also, Jalen Waddle. Would he maybe get thrown into a potential trading on draft day to see what we can get? So we'll start with Alan. What do you see happening draft day in April?
Here's the thing, though. I think that ideally the Dolphins would like to trade down to accumulate draft capital, as you mentioned, because they need to build up like a little foundation of young, cheap talent, which they really do not have. However, it takes two to tango. It takes a team wanting to move up to 11 to make that move. It's because it's great to want to move down, but if nobody wants to move up, you can't make a deal. And the thing to remember about Jalen Waddle is this cap number in 2026 is 11 million or something like that. Dolphins are winning big in 2026, I'm afraid. In 2027, his cap number goes to 33 million. So this is where, and he's got value. I'm not buying the reports of Buffalo offering a 1 and a 3 last year. In fact, Brandon Bean, the GM, who's now director of vice president of football ops in Buffalo, said basically they made an offer to an AFC East team, which you didn't name, and we're going to assume it was the Dolphins and Jalen Waddle, and the Dolphins refused to engage. So this notion that they offered something and it wasn't good enough for the Dolphins, we don't know because they refused to engage. So I don't know what you can get for Waddle. A 1 and a 3 to me would be like, yes, please. You wouldn't even finish the sentence. So if it can be moved for that kind of return, absolutely. Bye-bye. And I like Jalen, but sorry.
Perk, what do you see happening in draft night?
I don't know because I don't know how Sullivan and Hafley operate as far as the draft. But I will say this. I could see them moving down, and probably something that would help them would be if Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson, if his value went up, and there were a lot of teams that thought they need to jump up to number 11 to get Ty Simpson. Other than that, I kind of agree with Poop. This is a strong draft for edge rushers, a strong draft for cornerbacks. I'm not sure how many of these guys at number 11 that teams think I need to jump up to get him. So the Dolphins, they probably stay at 11. And interestingly enough, they could go a whole lot of ways at 11, right? You could go edge rusher, you could go DT. I don't know if you want to go backup offensive tackle, backup right tackle. You could go safety. You could go cornerback. So there's a lot of different ways that they could go. I would hope they wouldn't go guard in the first round, but there's a lot of different ways that they. Yeah, no, thank you. But there's a lot of different ways.
On that one because Adrian in the chat, good friend of ours, he wanted to throw a question there. What's an under the radar position that could get picked high? He said, I like a few of the linebackers that will be available at 11. What do you feel like maybe it's an under? Go ahead, Alan. What you got?
Safety. There's an underrated because there's one guy who's like a Kyle Hamilton sort of kind of type. That's Caleb Downs from Ohio State. If he's there at 11, Dolphins could do a lot worse than jump all over him.
See, I say D tackle. I don't trust any of those D tackles except Zach Sealer, who had a down year last year. And I know people are going, well, you just took Kenneth Grant in the first round and you took Jordan Phillips in the 5th and Zeke Biggers in the 7th. I would go D tackle. Who has too many D tackles? Come on. Get the D tackle.
There you go. Can't get too many of those. You're right. Now, Alan, you did write on SI.com. You had an article with the Dolphins potentially switch Savania, who was their second overall pick, third round. But, he started as he was playing tackle, played all the positions at Arizona along the line, even some center. But he played primarily in tackle the last couple of years. And then he got moved to guard here, struggled very mightily out the gate down here, and finally, picked it up towards the end of the year. But, would you consider him making that move back to tackle and drafting a guard? I know you guys both said no, but eventually, do you think that position gets reassigned and we draft a guard, not necessarily with the 11th pick, but later on in the draft? What do we do about the offensive line is the real question there.
Get to the point, Lo.
I don't say no. I say hell no. this was an answer to a mailbag question of like, would I move the Dolphins? Be smart to move Savaiinaea to tackle? And to me, it's like every time I saw Savaiinaea look really, really bad in 2025, it was when he was a little bit in space where he looked lost, the footwork's off, the technique is off. I really want him at tackle in space. No, thank you very much. Now, if the Dolphins want to move him back to right guard, on the right side where he played at Arizona, sure, no problem. Check it out. See if that unlocks him. But as far as moving him to tackle, no, thank you very much. I'm good, thanks. As far as the rest of the offensive line, well, you're good with Brewer, you're good with Patrick Paul. Savaiinaea has got to be given every single solitary opportunity to stay in the starting lineup because you drafted him in the second round. Austin Jackson, I'm still not convinced going to be on the roster. There could be a post-June 1 cut where you save like $10, $11 million of cap space. And then right guard is a big old question mark because right now Cole Strange is a free agent. Daniel Brunskill is a free agent. James Daniels is gone. Keon Smith's a free agent. So it's basically Jonah and nobody else.
Yeah, if you move anybody on the offensive line, I would probably try to move backup center Andrew Meyer to one of the guard positions. But aside from that, yeah, you probably have to go outside the roster to get a lot of these answers on the offensive line. The starting right guard, backup right tackle, and probably backups all along the way. I will say this, I thought the backup offensive line depth was going to be terrible last year, but they found guys and they developed guys, so that turned out good. So we'll see what happens this year. Maybe they get lucky on a couple of those.
And I got one more for you guys. So you're in the know and you see the more development. So I want to talk a little bit about Troy Aikman, and I want to know how much of a role.
Good quarterback, strong arm. Nice.
In the 90s, right? I heard about him. I was growing up a little bit. I would know. So regarding John Eric Sullivan and Coach Hafley, how much of an impact did Troy Aikman really have in bringing these guys in? And even so, moving forward, do you think the Dolphins may offer him something more permanent as a role as a consultant or an advisor, staying long-term with the Dolphins? Chris, what do you got for that one?
I've asked around and people have told me as of right now, there are no plans for Troy Aikman to join the Dolphins full-time. Okay. It was qualified as of right now. So I don't know what the plans are. Aikman was a heavy hitter in both the coach and GM interviews. To what extent, it hasn't been clearly defined to me, but he was instrumental in both decisions. By the way, I've told this story. So we're in Pittsburgh this year, and I see Troy Aikman in the press box in the bathroom. I fought the urge to introduce myself to him. Y'all will be proud of me for that, right? Right? That's good judgment.
You would have called him in the stall.
Probably wash his hands first.
Exactly. So I did not go up to him and offer to, extend my hand and all that kind of stuff. I thought that showed great journalistic restraint by me.
You did well.
Right. But we'll see.
Lou would have sent me into the men's bathroom to get him. Lou would have said, like, babe, you got to go get him. We got to go introduce him. So you did well.
That's right. So, we'll see what his role turns out to be. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have much to add to what Perk said because it's pretty much on the money. And I was not in Pittsburgh. I was not in that bathroom. Did not see Troy Aikman over there and would not have introduced myself either at that time. In fact, actually, fun fact, I interviewed Troy Aikman. I'm going to date myself here. When he was at Oklahoma, which is where he started his college career. And I know you guys are big fans. If you remember, in 1985, beat Oklahoma in Norman, 27-13. They knocked out Aikman in that game with a broken leg. And then his backup quarterback comes in, and they had changed the offense to fit Aikman because they're normally a wishbone team, and Aikman was such a good passer. They changed the offense. They bring in this freshman quarterback named Jamel Holloway, who is the perfect wishbone quarterback, and Oklahoma kicks ass the rest of the day. They actually won the national championship at the Orange Bowl, and I was working for the old Miami News at the time. I had Oklahoma as a beat that week, and I interviewed Troy Aikman about being like all of a sudden an afterthought because the wishbone was back at Oklahoma. Anyway, it's got nothing to do with nothing, but I
Oh, no, very cool story.
And then he ends up going to UCLA, and the rest is history. Hall of Fame career after that. So there you go. All right. So sticking with that theme here, I want to go backwards as well, and I want to get to the bottom. If you guys know it, if you want to, give it away here, what was the real reason, in your opinion, if you know it, or if your opinion, why Mike McDaniel got the axe? Was it because
How much time you got?
Going back to Aikman here, was it one of three things? If you want to take a guess, or if you know it, say it. In terms of, was it the fact that the GMs were saying, hey, I'm not coming here, McDaniel is here? Was it Aikman getting in Ross's ear, getting in Garfinkel's ear and saying, hey, look, this guy can't continue as a head coach? Or was it, just that, he was Harbaugh becoming available? Was that really, because they waited 4 days. They didn't do it on Black Monday. They were the only team that waited those 4 days to make the move. Which one of those three is likely the reason why McDaniel got the axe?
I've been told that it was the result of Steve Ross's conversation with him on Tuesday morning, the day after Black Monday, which I just find strange. I find it very bizarre that you could know a coach for 4 years, and then this one conversation, unless he just MF'd you, this one conversation makes you think, I'm going to go a different direction. But that's what I've been told, is that it was that Tuesday morning conversation, the day after Black Monday, that Steve Ross talked to Mike McDaniel. He thought about what Mike said and then decided that was it.
Wow.
I don't know if I fully buy that, but that's the story that I've been told, and I haven't seen anything different anywhere else.
Alex?
I'm going to just speculate here, but the thing with the Perk story, and no reason to doubt what you've been told, but it's like he's told on Tuesday and he waits until Thursday to make the move, and doing it while interrupting a player exit interview, Darren Waller. That, first of all, what's to say that was very poorly handled. I'm sorry. That's just weird. I think if I were to speculate, I'd buy more the idea of like they were talking to some GMs and getting feedback from the GMs, and they were like, yeah. To me, that would make more sense. I don't buy the Harbaugh angle because I don't know that the Dolphins really were necessarily
Contenders.
Much of a shot, because John Harbaugh is looking around and looks at the Dolphins where they are, cap space, quarterback situation, organization. Couldn't have looked at the Dolphins and go, oh yeah, that's one, I want to go there. So that would be my guess. Troy Aikman had already been on board, so I don't know that all of a sudden Aikman from the Monday to the Thursday chimed in and go, you got to get rid of that guy. So that would be my best guess.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. A totally bizarre situation. They let him make the post-game comments at New England. Then they double down, and he comes back and has his end of the season presser, pretty much exuding confidence that he's going to be back. And then it drags on to the fourth day. And as you just mentioned, he's in the middle of a exit interview with Darren Waller, and that's when this all comes to a head. I just thought it was extremely poorly managed. And ultimately, the follow-up is, did we get the right guys, in your opinion, in John Eric Sullivan as the general manager and Jeff Hafley as the head coach?
I'm going to take that first because I want to add something over here too. See, this is where it would be nice if we had an owner who actually talked to the media as opposed to just giving an introductory statement, which he did when they introduced John Eric Sullivan and Jeff Hafley, because I can assure you we would have asked Mr. Ross, had he taken questions on that day, January 22nd, which I remember very well because it's my son's birthday. We would have asked him, what changed between the Monday when Mike McDaniel's talking to us and even saying that he's going to have some input, not be a decision maker, but some input into the new GM, to Thursday when he's out. But we didn't get that chance, so we're left to speculate. The question now here was Sullivan and Hafley. Again, benefit of the doubt. They come from a winning program. Green Bay, more often than not, is very good. They usually win. However, John Eric Sullivan's never been a GM before. Jeff Hafley, never been a NFL head coach. He's been a head coach at Boston College, defensive coordinator at Green Bay, and there were some who would tell you, well, you look at what he did when Micah Parsons left. Despite a defense that's got a whole bunch of number 1 and number 2 picks. Again, benefit of the doubt. They both come across very, very well when they talk. They're very decisive, communicate, seem exactly have a conviction on what they're going to do. That doesn't mean diddly squat until they start playing the game. But again, benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I agree with Poop. And, I'll say this, that I do like – look at that, Poop. I do like that they took kind of a different approach by getting some outside voices in Dan Silman and Troy Aikman, because the voices in-house didn't seem to be doing such a great job on major decisions. So I'm glad they did that. I'm also glad that they went with a defensive coach. You guys, if you know me, you know I'm a very old school football fan. I promote defense whenever possible, as I did before, earlier in the show. Sorry, Poop, I do. We had 2 defensive coaches in the Super Bowl. I'm glad the Dolphins hired a defensive coach. We'll see how it turns out, but I like what they say. I like the attitude. I like the confidence. They've got to follow it up with action, but I like what I'm hearing, and I like the selection.
And then I guess bringing it back home, the big news as we started the show today was Bradley Chubb and Tyreek. I'm going to bring this up for you guys. Bradley Chubb, by the numbers, he's played 41 seasons.
41 games.
41 seasons. He'd be super.
Man, that's impressive.
He'd be like the LeBron James of NFL. Just kidding. Too soon. 41 games. He missed the 2024 season, 22 sacks, 9 forced fumbles, 3 fumbles recovered, and he went to the Pro Bowl in 2022.
Yeah, that was a year, of course, where he, started that year in Denver. So, really didn't have a signature stamp in his Miami career. But look, he's a really good player. Pro Bowl twice, one in Denver, one here in Miami.
Active in the community as well.
Yeah, good guy. Yeah. We didn't say anything about that, but you kind of, what was your take on, we traded a lot, gave up a lot to get him down here. Well, how will Bradley Chubb's time as a Miami Dolphin be remembered?
Perk, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. The whole Greer, McDaniel, Tua, Tyreek era was a failure. So because look, I know we disagree on this, and this is not a personal thing. This is factual. Just considering how much talent you had, the resources you expended. It was 5-for-1 for Tyreek. You gave up a 1st-round pick to get Chubb. You didn't win a playoff game with any of these people. You had Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, Jalen Ramsey, Vic Fangio, Calais Campbell, Raheem Mostert. Like, you had Hall of Famers, Xavier Howard. You had all Christian Wilkins, Rob Hunt. You couldn't win a playoff game with those guys. So, and it's not Chubb's fault, but Chubb was a big part of it. Great guy, good football player, but you couldn't get this team over the hump. For all of these guys, Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, I just don't know how you can really label their time with the Dolphins a success when none of them won a playoff game. So Chubb is a great guy, a good football player, but his time here, failure, disappointment, if I'm being nice.
I'm with you.
Failure is being nice. Holy moly!
No, disappointment. Disappointment. It was a failure. That's what I'm saying.
Perk, I love Perk, but Perk is like very, very extreme for that, because to me, it's like if we're looking at the whole era, it was, somebody put in the chat, underwhelming, underachieving, perhaps, but to me, to call that total failure, I don't. So here you go. Thank you. Underwhelming. I don't agree with that. Bradley Chubb, underwhelming as well. I think the name is bigger than the production. His best year was 2023. I thought he was very, very good in 2023. And then in what I will call Mike McDaniel's biggest gaffe as Dolphin head coach, why in the hell is he on the field when it's 49-19 against Baltimore with 3 minutes left? I mean, and then the explanation actually might have been worse, because the explanation was, well, first of all, they wanted to be out there and they wanted to get some positive momentum heading into the work week. Why? Because you make a defensive stand down 30 points, that's going to give you like a lot of juice. Yay team, really? I thought that was brutal. And then this year I thought he was very underwhelming, and you paid a big price for him, and then you gave him a lot of money as well, which kind of is emblematic of this era of Dolphins where they were way, way too generous with the contracts like this. Show me the money, everybody, you get your paid, and not justified.
And then the other one, of course, is Tyreek Hill. Tyreek's tenure down here was interesting. Obviously, we have the legal aspect of it, right? And then who he was on and off the field. I want to share something. He did a lot off the field good things, right? Of course, he had his instances where we're like, dang, Tyreek again. But he held a beautiful gala down here in Miami that we went to a few years ago. Him and his family have the Tyreek Hill Foundation. They did a gala. So they did pump a lot of money and time and efforts back to the community, which we appreciate, right? We're always so quick to say, oh, he did this, he did that. But he did good things down here as well.
He also, yes, he did some good things.
And he's short. I'll tell you, I'm a good 5'7". I'm not in heels there. He's a buck 5'7" there too.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to, when telling the story, mention that he also did have some, notable incidents off the field. But again, overall, a good experience. But it didn't result, as mentioned. Perky brought it up. 0 playoff wins. But here's his resume. You look at it.
So here he had 54 games, 340 receptions, 4,700 plus receiving yards, 29 touchdowns, and 2-time first team All-Pro. He did. Josh Moser also covered today when speaking to Drew Rosenhaus that Tyreek is not done playing football, that Tyreek wants to get picked up and go play somewhere else. Some names that were floating around were the Giants, maybe with Harbaugh and Jackson Dart. Even Dallas was thrown out there. So this is not going to be the end of Tyreek. Tyreek will continue his talents somewhere else.
With all the great receivers. Sorry, go ahead, Alan.
We sure about that?
I think he has some left in his tank.
Well, because if you listen to all of Drew's interview with Josh, he kind of mentioned like once or twice the road is long. It's back. Tyreek knows this. And Drew is Mr. Positivity, Mr. Confidence. And for him to like kind of speak in those tones.
Between the lines, yeah.
And again, it was a nasty, nasty injury he sustained. So I don't know. If anybody can do it, basically, this guy's a physical freak. He's going to work his butt off.
Yeah.
But to automatically assume he's back in 2026, I think that might be a shot. Too far. And if you're throwing out teams, Chiefs, Tyreek would love to go back to the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. Be reunited with Patrick Mahomes, of course, and hey, if he wants to be reunited with McDaniel, he can go and play with Justin Herbert. But we'll see about that one. But no, guys, I want to ask you because look, the Dolphins have had incredible receivers. From Paul Warfield to the Marks brothers, O.J. McDuffie was Dan Marino's right hand man. And so, how do you look at these stats? They are special stats. But again, as Perk mentioned, the end result 0 playoff wins. So is it just, hey, nice stats, nothing after that? How will the Tyreek Hill era and, specifically speaking about his stats that he put up, be remembered down here in Miami?
I wrote about this today. It's complicated because as an individual, Tyreek was really, really good, but he had some low spots, and that's on the field and off the field, right? Team-wise, it was there were some highs and there were some lows. So, with Tyreek, I think the numbers that I had were with Tyreek, they were 14-5 when he had 100 more yards, and I think 14-23 when he had 99 or fewer. So basically, you won like 73% of the games when he got 100 or more, and you won only like 37% of the games when he got 99 or fewer. He influenced winning, I think, more than Tua. I did Tua's numbers with before and after Tyreek. You can look in my column before Tyreek, with Tyreek, and after Tyreek. You can look at my column to get those numbers. So with Tyreek, as the All Pros and the top 100 and all that. That was great. The touchdown sellies, he was a really fun guy, but you did have allegations of domestic abuse, and you did have drop passes against Kansas City and Philly, and you did have in the 2023 and 2024 seasons, he did not have a 100-yard playoff game, a 100-yard game against a playoff team. So Tyreek, look, he's a Hall of Famer to me. He's one of the greatest players to ever wear a Dolphins uniform. But again, the Dolphins era, the Tyreek era, disappointing. It was a failure. And again, Poop, if I'm being nice, I'll say it was disappointing.
Okay, you didn't say it was a failure. Okay. In terms of the stats against playoff teams and all that, it's not just wide receiver, it's quarterback as well. You got to get him the ball.
Yep.
Okay, that's number one. Number two, I've covered this team longer than you guys, a lot longer because I got this white hair here to show it. Most explosive player in team history. There might not be a close second. That's number one. There might not be a close second. He produced like crazy in terms of wide receivers in team history. Paul Warfield maybe belongs ahead of him. Outside of that, could make a good case for Tyreek. The problem, so from that standpoint, Tyreek was everything on the field you could have expected him to be. He made that Dolphin offense special when it was special in 2022 and 2023. The problem was, and I'm with you, Perk, the whole, if we're looking back at the trade, it's very complicated because once the Dolphins got that phone call from the Chiefs, you guys interested in Tyreek? Hell yeah, we're interested in Tyreek. They completely sold out to a certain mode of playing.
Right.
And that mode of playing gives you absolutely zero margin for error when it comes to late season games on the road against really good opponents who can take away what you do best. And the question now becomes, would the Dolphins have been better off just sticking with what they had with maybe Mike McDaniel stays run-oriented throughout his entire tenure in Miami, which he didn't do because once you got Tyreek, you paid that price for him. It'd be stupid to just be doing, running like crazy. So this is how the two ways to look at it. But the whole era was disappointing. Sure.
Yeah.
Tyreek with Miami, no.
I like Greg's comment. Tyreek made Tua look good. Then here's another one. Tua always threw under him. It's all no lies detected at all. It's
no doubt. All
truth.
right. Guys, we greatly appreciate your time with us today. It's really a shame that there's not really a lot to talk about this offseason. Really, not a lot going on. I mean,
there hasn't been for a week.
Yeah, the Dolphins, they're very boring, aren't they? They're
very boring.
Is it baseball season yet? Is it baseball season? Marlins, what?
But no, again, thank you guys so much for joining us. And really, the really big takeaway today is you guys are out on Mount Finsmore. And so, again, this is amazing. On President's Day, we're glad to make this announcement. So congratulations again on that honor, guys.
Enshrinement.
Thank you. That's huge. Elected, if you will, to Mount
doesn't
Finsmore.
do that, does it? Yeah, mine
We
doesn't do
have
that.
to give a speech.
I'm sorry, yeah.
We have to give a speech.
I've got a heart defect.
There you go. Jeez. All right, guys, please let everybody know. If they don't already, they should all know. You guys do a tremendous job of covering the team.
Yes.
And so, Alan, go ahead and start us off. Where can everybody follow you and get all your great content?
Well, it's right there next to my name here. It's Miami Dolphins on SI.com. A lot of content, all free, no paywall. And then there's the All Dolphins podcast, which usually will go 3 times a week in the off season, every day during the regular season, as news warrants. Perk, as you mentioned, is a frequent guest. May not be after I cut him off tonight. I'm sure he will. So All Dolphins podcast and the Miami Dolphins on SI.com. And I also am part of the Dolphins Collective with Doug Lee Durong, TD Finstock, Mark Kelly, and myself. And we go Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern time and Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Fantastic. And while you do that, I have to keep up your tradition from your previous appearance, and I got to don my Expos with you. I'd like to ask, as a side question here, with Montreal and Toronto being rivals, were you going for the Dodgers in the World Series?
Oh, that's a great question.
I was not going for the Dodgers in the World Series.
You were not. Okay, so you rooted for the rival Blue Jays. Wow, all right.
They were never rivals. They played in the American League, and the Expos were in the National League. And so
I know, but
two different levels.
Yeah, okay.
That's like, do we hate the Rays? We don't hate the Rays.
Yeah.
They play in the AL.
Yeah, okay.
Canada's a big country, Lou. It's not small.
All right, okay. All right.
Sorry, Park. There's right now, there's one Major League Baseball team in Canada. So I think I'm not going to.
It's Canada's team, no doubt about it.
And then the World Baseball Classic coming up with Team Canada having a team. That's very exciting. I'm going to be doing a lot of coverage on that. It's one of my favorite things in all of sports is the WBC. It's obviously it's a risk with these players, taking extra time to represent their country. We saw with Edwin Diaz with the Mets. his injury a few years ago. But I just think it's such a beautiful thing that these players get to represent their country. And it's just a great time. So I really look forward to WBC. Yeah. I think DR is going to take it home and flush everybody out. That team is just stacked. You never know. I mean, even like a team like Israel is, so you just never know.
You never know. All right, Perk. So how can everybody out there find you and all your amazing content as well?
My stuff is on sunsentinel.com, so that's where you can find it. But you can find me on my Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk podcast. Normally Tuesdays at noon. We're going to be on this Thursday at noon. Me and David Feronis talking Dolphins coaching staff, talking the recent moves, talking draft, pre-combine, all of that kind of stuff. You can find me on Poop's All Dolphins podcast. And then just various radio shows around. I'll be on Paul Castronovo tomorrow morning at 7:25 or so. So, yeah.
Nice.
7:25, you'll be sleeping. Be real. Okay. They don't wake up until 9 o'clock.
We saw David Feronis at the Heat game last week. He was there at the Heat game.
I messaged him and I was like, it's either you or you have an identical twin. And it sure knows him. I've never met him in person until then.
Yeah. Guys, again, thank you for joining us again.
This crazy busy night.
Shame that there's not a lot of going on in Dolphin world, but we'd love to have you back on at some point and do this again. We had a tremendous, great time. We appreciate your insight as always. And again, thanks for joining us.
And enjoy the off season a little bit. Go to Cancun or something, right? Get a trip in.
Hey, I'm going to Costa Rica at the end of the month, so I'm good there. Yeah.
Good to hear. No,
yep.
Anything? Anywhere you're going? Any trip?
Nothing planned yet.
All right.
He did a big one last year, though.
I did a big one last year, yeah.
All right, so you're covered for that one because you guys know it's going to be a long season, so buckle up now. Get your rest.
Absolutely. All right, boys, thanks again for joining us. You have a good rest of your evening.
All right, see y'all. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No, appreciate you guys.
All right.
All right, so one more thing before we call it a night. I do want to share one thing with Ian about, let me see if it loaded yet. So you guys know our pal, Big E, is battling cancer for the second time. He started chemo again today. So he did it this summer, and so he has to restart it because he's battling cancer for the second time. So myself, along with Mike with Dolphins Talk, we are doing a raffle. This raffle, let me pull it up here. I'll give you guys some details on it. It's called the Big Love for Big E raffle. Here's your chance to win a signed Richmond Webb jersey. I actually have the jersey here. You can win this signed Richmond Webb jersey, signed by our pal, Richmond Webb, along with a photo with him. And all the proceeds will go to support Ian and his family on a summer vacation this year. So the plan is to send Ian, his daughters, and his wife on a beautiful summer vacation, hopefully to Alaska this summer. And so you can get one ticket for 10, 3 for 20, 6 for 50, or 13 for 100. The raffle is open now all the way to March 5th. March 5th is 305 day. And on March 5th, myself and Mike and Ian will come on one of these channels, whether it's Dolphin Talk or here or both, and we'll do the raffle. After that, we have 2 more raffles with Jason Taylor signed memorabilia and also another Richmond Webb. So it's going to be a few raffles coming up. But guys, please support Ian as he goes through this terrible bout again with cancer for the second time, with his liver not doing well as well. And then again, the winner will be drawn on 305 March 5th for a chance to win a Richmond Webb jersey. All proceeds, every penny, will be sent to Ian.
Yep, and again, keep Big E in your prayers. Of course, we got DCC coming up
next week.
Well, he's the captain, you're the co-captain, and so we look forward to being at that event and supporting everything that goes on with it. The Dolphins do a tremendous job at that event every year. They've raised so much money, and we're hoping that one of these days, all the money raised eventually goes to a cure for this horrible disease. So again, just continue to keep Big E in your thoughts and prayers.
Definitely. All right, guys. Well, we hope you have a great week ahead. And we will catch up with you soon. So thank you again to our guests, Alain and Chris Perkins. It was a fantastic show, perfect timing because there was so much going on with the Dolphins world today, where to the point where you heard the ESPN chime, you're like, what now? Tua is safe for now, and we'll see what happens. It was
nonstop. And Sony Michaels is on there. Thank you again. First time
Sony
watching.
Michaels, we liked having you.
There you go. Appreciate it. Don't be a stranger. Come on back. We love interacting with everybody in the chat. Again, thank you guys. Sorry we couldn't get to your question, but obviously there's a lot of development news today, and we had to get to it with our guest. But yes, definitely don't be a stranger. Come on by. And if you're watching over on X and Twitter, as always, come on over to YouTube. Give it a like to tonight's episode. And as Sonny just did, subscribe to the channel. Be a subscriber. We love interacting with everybody out there. We love talking everything sports, and we're going to continue to do that. As these developments continue to happen, seems like there's always something going on in SoFLo Sports, and we're happy to be here to talk about it.
A little shout out to my girl Hannah in Raleigh, North Carolina. Hannah the Princess. Hello, hi Ash.
Me and Juan been texting back because, as mentioned at the top of the show, the Hurricanes had a huge victory in Raleigh against the NC State Wolfpack. So that's another story we're going to be developing as they make their push to March Madness.
We also cover a lot of March Madness. Lou being an Arizona fan, they just took 2 losses the last week. We won't get into that. Sorry, I even just brought that up. I know that's very sensitive, but St. John's has won like 11, 12 games straight, so we will talk about that. But March Madness is just great, and we cover that in depth. So no matter who your team is, whether it's Miami or one of those other teams, we're going to get into March Madness talk within the next few weeks.
Yep, perfect. All right, well, what do you say? Let's
get out of here.
Let's end the show. Guys, again, have a great rest of your week. Thanks for joining. Remember to like tonight's episode and subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment if you're tuning on a replay. Good night, guys. Take care.